My name is Chantal Halverson, and my research at Tide over the last year and a few months has been to determine impact from the PG dump site on the Rio Grande River. So here is a map of my study area where I spent a lot of my time last year. This is the Rio Grande River, and all of the lower reaches of the river here is a wetland ecosystem. This is the dump site, and these 4 dots are the sites that were tested in this study. So to test for impact, 4 types of analysis were carried out. Macroinvertebrate surveying was used to compare species composition and biodiversity between the reference site and the most impacted site. Water quality testing was used to understand the basic environmental conditions of the Rio Grande and to establish background levels of nutrients for reference to the tissue analysis. And the tissue analysis of heavy metals and other trace elements was used to test for bioaccumulation of elements and metals and to find out if these contaminants are transferring between species of higher trophic levels when they consume species of lower trophic levels. And the tissue analysis of carbon and nitrogen stable isotopes, that was the foundation of this project, and that was used to determine if the leachate is actually reaching the Rio Grande River. So just to explain that in a bit more detail, all of these other types of analysis are extremely useful, but none of them can actually prove impact from the dump site on the river. With all the other forms of testing, the results could be from some source upriver, and I wouldn't be able to tell. Stable isotopes, however, are like fingerprints. Every organism on Earth has a signature based on what trophic level it is and what it eats. So these signatures can change as a result of an anthropogenic influence or a human influence, like leachate. So the point is to use stable isotopes to find the signatures of leachate so then it can be traced as it cycles through the environment and is uptaken in biota. So in great summary, what I was looking for was changes in these signatures at impacted sites. So ultimately what I did was test the tissues of species within the river and look for changes in the carbon and nitrogen signatures at impacted sites. And in addition, I also tested heavy metals and other trace elements in species tissues and in the water as well. And results show firstly that there were changes in carbon and nitrogen signatures at impacted sites. Second, there were high levels of zinc, chromium, copper, lead, and iron in the sediment, and high values of zinc, manganese, copper, iron, and cadmium in the algae at impacted sites as well. Also, in the water quality analysis, I found high concentrations of ammonia, phosphate, nitrate, chromium, and manganese in the leachate at the dump site, and high values of nitrate and chromium at the most impacted site as well. And lastly, dissolved oxygen at the most impacted site is anoxic, which means that there is so little oxygen in the water that the majority of impacted species will die. The World Health Organization reports that DO levels below 3.2 milligrams per liter will cause the death of most species. And levels at the most impacted site too are well below those levels. And this was found as well in the species composition study that we did between the site upriver and the most impacted sites. We definitely found that certain species just couldn't survive there. And based on these things, the study concludes that the PG dump site is having a negative influence on the Rio Grande River, and management recommendations are as follows. The Solid Waste Management Authority has established the Rio Grande dump site as a priority for relocation, but there are debates as to where to put it. I hope that results from this study will be useful in relocating this site and reforming solid waste management in the southern districts of Belize. I think that it is important to relocate the dump site and develop an actual landfilling system that's less harmful to the environment and species. And I think that there's probably 100 other places where the dump site would be better suited. But for me, I'm really interested in reducing the waste in the first place before it ends up in the dump site. What I would really like to see is a composting center in PG. 60% of the waste could be eliminated by doing that alone. Also, when I first came here, before I got really involved in the science, I was looking into systems that could work here that could encourage people to separate their waste at a household level. Every day at the dump site, I see people sifting through the waste for aluminum and tin cans and copper and metals and things like that, and they're selling it to Guatemala. And those people are clearly making a profit, otherwise they wouldn't bother. So I think that if someone were to really focus on implementing a system where people separate their waste at a household level, maybe sign agreements to do it, and have scheduled pickups and possibly give those households a cut of the profit, which would encourage more people to do it, I think that it would be possible to set up a profitable recycling system in southern Belize. And I think that these changes could start to discourage people from burning their garbage and throwing it in the sea or in the jungle or in the rivers. And I think it would be a really big project, but one really dedicated person could do it if they were to really focus on it.